to the northern star. That's the only point that's fixed. I once believed in love. Even love cannot bridge this rift.
If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. You're listening to Night Dreams Talk Radio After Dark with our host, Gary Anderson.
And here I am. We're down at the compound talking to Dr.Barry Taff. We're talking paranormal. Boy, I tell you what, I'm not going to be able to sleep tonight. Hey, doctor, is it okay if James asks you a few questions before he blows up my cell phone? He keeps texting me. Go ahead, James.
How you doing, Barry? The San Pedro case that you were on, that was a pretty crazy case. Looking back with all the stuff that you've seen and accumulated with that, what do you think caused that, or what's your final thoughts on that?
San Pedro case was an extraordinary one, and it taught us, again, it helped us to better unravel the mysteries of all this. Jackie Hernandez was the case. We went out there in the summer of 1989. Barry Conrad, myself, Jeff Wheatcraft, a few other people. So we're out there. It was hot as hell, really hot and humid, and Jackie's telling us, walk in the house, there's that same terrible smell of decomposition of organic matter. And she described an apparition of an old man wearing flood pants and a white, red and black flannel shirt and the whole thing. So long story short, we began, because Barry Conrad is a professional cameraman. That's how he made his living. He was a cameraman, and a really good one. And anyway, the phenomena kept getting more and more intense. Weird lights around Jackie. We captured strange liquids coming out of the walls, which we captured a sample of, and turned out to be human blood plasma. No source. Anyway, what gets really weird is, rather than go into it, let's take a half hour to discuss it. Jackie is finally... No, before we get to that point. My father had a heart attack, so I helped my mom. I was busy, so Barry and Jeff went out there. And Jeff's in the attic with another one of our friends named Gary Bain. And all of a sudden, Gary hears Jeff go, ah! He turns around. He couldn't see. He had to fire the camera's flash to see because it was pitch black behind him. And he sees Jeff has got a clothesline wrapped around his neck in a bowling knot, and it's pulling him up a bolt in one of the rafters. So it's Hank trying to hang him, and he's strangling. So Gary gets it down. The thing was really tight. Jeff gets out. He has a rope burn, a burn in his neck where that thing was cutting into him. Had Gary Bain not be there, Jeff would have died. Now, what's intriguing, the phenomena, whatever it was, kept attacking Jeff. You read about it in my book. It's called Chapter 3, A Hazardous Haunting. Went on and on and on. So eventually, Jackie's able to move from San Pedro up to Weldon, which is much further north in California. And Barry and Jeff went out there. I couldn't go because my father was still sick and my mother needed my help. So I didn't go. So long story short, he's out there, and all kinds of things are banging around, flying around, furniture moving around, the whole bit. Meanwhile, new people move into Jackie's little bungalow on 11th Street in San Pedro who knew nothing about the case because we had not promoted it anyway at the time. And they began having phenomena similar to Jackie. But meanwhile, the phenomena was still around Jackie. Now, prior to living on 11th Street, she never had a paranormal experience in her life. So my guess, based on the evidence collected, is that the environment was a very high geomagnetic or electromagnetic area. She was hypersensitive to it. We never had her check for being seizure-prone or epileptic because we wouldn't have the ability to, and she would have subjected herself to that type of testing. But anyway, she moved. New people move in. The phenomenon is similar to Jackie's in many ways. Jackie moves north. The phenomenon is still around her. What? But then it gets even weirder. Jackie went to visit Barry Conrad when back in Southern California. She'd visit him in his apartment in Studio City. She's there for a while. She leaves, and then phenomena breaks out in Barry Conrad's apartment. I went, what? And again, it attacked Jeff. Well, Jackie looked at Jeff, who was always around Barry because they worked together in other areas, as an impediment to her growing closer to Barry because she didn't think Jeff liked her. Whatever that case may be, she wanted Jeff out of the way. Who did the phenomena keep attacking? Jeff, 3 distinct times. Then after she leaves, when he's at Barry's house, Barry would have another girl come over. He'd kick Jackie out, and then bring her back days later. It was like a game. And then Jackie was getting really pissed. Well, the way it happened, phenomena then broke out in Barry's apartment. Fires broke up, scissors coming through pillows, something attacking Jeff again, windows exploding, machines turning on and off. We were seeing the psychokinetic manifestation of Jackie's anger. And so we were doing the hard copy show, or one of those shows. Barry, he was out of town, he couldn't do it, so I'm doing it. And I'm talking about this, and the producer says, or the host says, see, you mean Jackie told the ghost what to do, and the ghost did it? I said, no, it's Jackie. They go, what? It's Jackie. She's been charged up by this environment. It finally bled off over a couple of years. But for a couple of years, it was one thing after another. It finally stopped. Although I did a show with her about 8 years ago, and after she was gone, I was shooting in the same studio, and a backdrop flew across the room behind me, and then a tripod with a camera leaped up right in front of me, and luckily one of the production assistants caught it before it hit the floor. But Jackie was miles away, but she had been there.
Wow.
So it was an amazing case.
It was. I remember reading about it. I know, seen the picture of the poor guy being hung with that phone cord around his neck. My goodness. But you'd mentioned you'd woke up, what you thought about was some aliens. Do you ever have any missing time, or you think you might have an implant?
Did I? No, but I had a girlfriend 43 years ago. Wait, this is 1977. I met her on a case. She looked like a young Liz Taylor and Joan Collins merged. And very exotic. So we're dating, blah, blah, blah. And then the dreams came. And the dreams came, all it was July 22nd. Stuff's going to happen. Stuff's going to happen. And I wrote it down. I didn't know why. I knew the relationship would end. She was abducted on July 22nd. While we were together, they took her and left me, and she had a complete breakdown afterwards.
Wow.
So had that not occurred, my life would have been so different, I can't even imagine. I would have gotten married, probably would have settled down, had to get a real job, blah, blah, blah. But it didn't happen.
Yeah. You must look back at all the events like that. It must have happened through your life, and you were talking about things that change in the future and the past. You must have a lot of mind-blowing things that going on.
This stuff doesn't scare me. I'm startled by it, especially if I don't expect it, but I'm scared of what I do know. Crazy people with guns or knives, stupid people that cause others to be harmed, people who are rude and cold and cruel and mean and take advantage of other people. That stuff really bothers me. But this stuff isn't frightening. It's I've had cases where money in the Hollymont case, where thousands of pennies appeared from nowhere and were raining down on the ground in a pantry up on Hollymont. If it only could have been dollars, I could have bought another car.
Yeah, really. Do you ever think some of these people misconstrued hauntings for maybe alien visitations or vice versa?
We have had cases that began as a poltergeist case and then turned into an abduction. We've also had cases that began as abductions, alleged abductions, and then had paranormal fallout. So the question is why, and no one knows. That's, the only thing I can tell you is that UFOs seem to use forces we call paranormal the way we use electromagnetism. Now, with all of our instruments that we take out, we're not measuring the phenomena. We're measuring the environment that occurs related to the phenomena. We can only measure what we know. We can't measure what we don't know. So that's what it comes down to. And before you assume something's paranormal, you've got to rule out everything else. Everything's got to be ruled out. Okay, whatever you're left with, that you prosaic explanation, then it's like, okay, then start with the most simplistic phenomena and go to the most outlandish phenomena. You go step by step by step. But I've been lucky. I've lived a very different life than anyone I've ever known. There's weird things that happen in my life. Like I said, coincidences or synchronicities, and my website gets into some of this. And I keep thinking it's going to slow down. I'm 70 years old. And if anything, whatever it is, getting more intense now than it was when I was 50 or 40. So I don't know. All I'm telling you, this stuff happens. People reported things like this for centuries, for millennia. Here we are, they're trying to bury our heads in the sand.
Yeah, we are. How close do you think we are to coming through that threshold where we finally can connect some dots with this poltergeist activity to a real theory of why it's happening? You think it's anytime close?
That's not going to happen in my lifetime. Even if I was 30 years old, there's too many walls. There's too much fear, too much dogma. When, for example, how weird people are. When there was a show I was on, 6 times in the 90s called The Other Side. It was the first and the only paranormal talk show. And one of my friends was the co-creator of it, Ron Ziskin. It's a really good show. I was on it a lot of times, and why the show was canceled was really odd. Ratings were always high. Apparently, Time Magazine did a vicious attack on the paranormal, and they focused on the show in some respect, and they claimed the host was crazy. He was a licensed psychologist. He was so upset he had to quit. And then more attacks in the media. And the head of NBC at the time, Brendan Tartikoff, couldn't take it, so he yanked the show.
Oh, wow.
People said, well, if it isn't God, it's got to be the devil.
And then okay.
And then we go back to when our government first started studying UFOs in the 40s. And the people doing it were so frightened because they thought they must be demons fighting God, and they didn't want to get in the way. What?
Mm-hmm.
In the middle of the 28th century?
That's a very good point right there. Matter of fact, that brings me to the next question. What's your theory on why the aliens are here, or what's their agenda? What their agenda could be?
God only knows, but I think I could guess at why the government's not going to declassify most of the data, because it would unleash a can of worms they could never put back in that can. I have a gut feeling that this phenomena may end up telling us more about who we are and why we're here. And what if we learn, for example, that we, human beings, were genetically engineered by another race of beings that are not human, and the experiment is still ongoing? Then what? We have an inconceivable past and unimaginable future.
Yeah, that would cause a lot of...
And imagine what would happen to a war-weary world if suddenly they said, "Oh yeah, well we were designed by aliens and blah 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 blah." If you think we have wars, crazy wars now, people yelling the name of their god, going into a holy war, this could make that look like a joke.
Oh yeah. Plus government.
So there's just too many problems.
Oh yeah, I agree totally on that one. They'd be shutting down, and governments and people they would drive people crazy. I agree.
Yeah, it wouldn't do any good. It would, to some people like myself, it'd be interesting to get the answers. But remember, Western civilization is based on the concept of domestic tranquility. And as such, you don't want to do anything that upsets that, because come April 15th, you won't pay your taxes.
Yes,
that's all the government cares about in the end. Pay your taxes.